how did you end up with the Young Turks?
I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17 years old. So, in a lot of ways, I kind of stumbled my way into TYT, but I
Mhm.
started off in tech. And then I spent about 5 years organizing music shows, mostly in the Southwest and the South. So I did that in my early 20s, which is really great. And I kind of got a lot of experience with just general business like communications, booking events, networking
Mhm.
with people, sales. And then I ended up moving to New Jersey. And in 2018, a friend of mine, he used to play for the Jets and he played for the Bills. He's played for a variety of teams in the NFL, but we started a company called Politiscope. And basically, it was a way for people to keep up with bills in Congress. So you could see who voted for and against different bills. And it gave you like a layman's term breakdown. You could donate to campaigns. It was like a cool little tool to keep up with stuff. And we did well.
Yeah.
We did well. We raised over $1 million. We got into Forbes 30 under 30. Um, and so that was kind of like what opened the doors for me to have a career in politics. And then after that is when I got a contract with TLIP. So I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened in between there, but that was the basic steps. Entrepreneurship led me to politics, and then that opened up the door for TYT. So, yeah. But I mean, I think I would definitely be considered a leftist. You know, if it's between liberal Democrat and a leftist, just because there's certain things that I'm very hardline for. One of them being,
Mhm.
like social issues and social rights for people to be able to exist and just mind their own damn business. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll always be a strong fighter and proponent for that because there's no good reason not to be. And it just makes society better overall if we can just love one another and leave people alone. And then also like economic things, like I think that it's important for us to push strongly towards something like a single payer healthcare system, even if we can't get there, even if we have to land on a public option. I think that we need people who are pushing for that so that those negotiations are heard and felt. Um, and also, I think that because of the times that we're in where things are so polarized, I'd rather be on the left end than the right end. You know what I mean? Like right now, there's just not that much compromise to be made with the people who are in power. When you look at the right in this country, there's always diversity in thought and things like that. But in terms of the Republican Party itself and who's in power, very homogenous right now. It is
Mhm.
MAGA. That's what it is. And the Project 2025 agenda, not only is it apparent, but it's not new. The Republican Party
Yeah,
has been going after Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid
for
for
decades.
decades.
Mhm.
None of this is new. Now it's just amplified greatly and very stupid. Let's keep it 100. Like this, the people running the country they're a bunch of idiots, which is a dangerous situation to be
Idiots with money is even more dangerous.
idiots with money. So if I could describe real quick like the difference between like a liberal, a Democrat, and a
Hit me.
leftist. A leftist to me again are people who are more hard line on things like not willing to sacrifice what shouldn't be sacrificed. Of course, there's people you could consider crazy, but that's just not very, like a lot of people. And by that I would mean like anarchists or stuff like that. But that's
Mhm.
that's not a lot of people. And then a Democrat to me is just kind of like someone who's team Democrat, like they're just very pro establishment. They're just, like they ride hard for the Democratic Party. Like it's somewhat a part of their identity. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's just
I
like
do.
I vote Democrat. I fundraise for Democrats, and then liberal to me could be somebody who's just like a generally decent person who may or not be politically active. They may need a little convincing with certain issues, but overall,
Mhm.
they're just regular, everyday, decent people. And a lot of what we're talking about also is the status of whiteness and
Talk on.
how ingrained that is into the American fabric. Whiteness is not about color, it's about status, it's about positioning in society. And when you talk about this, you're talking about how human beings function. This is all subconscious. We
Mhm.
we we, we subconsciously arrange ourselves in society, and it tells us who does what and why. That's why if you see somebody in a certain neighborhood, you may assume they shouldn't be there. because subconsciously you're thinking about their status. We all do it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's how we function. If you see things, you make judgments. But the issue is there's this huge effort in America to pretend like whiteness is no longer a big deal, and it is. You know, for longer than slavery existed longer than it didn't in this country. And then a lot of the people who, like for instance, Ruby Bridges, who was the first Black girl to desegregate public schools in this country. My dad's older than she is. A lot of this stuff that we look at in black and white just happened, and the people who were furious about it are still alive. A lot of these people are still alive. They remember when their liberties were taken from them. They were furious that the playing field was being leveled out because, again, whiteness is about status. And that is the message that is pushed to particularly Republican voters, because it's primarily white voters in rural areas. These people don't necessarily live around very many other minorities. And when, you know, think about when Ronald Reagan got in office, his whole thing was welfare queens. So his thing was make America great again. And the racism sells over and over and over again. And it sells because we haven't gotten over it. You know, so it's like we can pretend like that's not an issue, but if it wasn't, then why would these people vote for a party who continuously goes after their benefits that they need to survive? They wouldn't. Lyndon B. Johnson, he has some type of quote that I don't remember exactly how it goes, but basically you could tell the lowest of white men that if he's better than a black man, he'll empty his pockets for you or something.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and it's true.
Yeah.
As long as they can feel better than, you know, I guess that is something. At least I'm not black.
I mean, really think about that. Like, really put yourself in the shoes of somebody who, you know, you may have nothing, but at least this black man better not look you in the eyes. That's something worth fighting.
That's your power.
That is power. You better not look at me. I can take your life and get away with it. I can come through your city and burn it down and get away with it because you threaten my position in society. And it's still the same. They're taking our jobs. These people are dangerous. All the DEI. Everybody, if you black, you got a job, you a DEI hire. It hasn't gone away.
Everybody.
It hasn't. It's just morphed, but it hasn't gone away. So I think that this country really, particularly white America, still has to look itself in the mirror and deal with that. Also, I think that this is just part of the human experience. Perhaps things have to really get routed and shaked up before people just pay a little bit more attention. I mean, what was it, like 54% of American adults read at or below a 5th grade level? Like, that's a huge problem. But I think Gen Z is an incredible case study on things like.
And what's the result so far?
I was gonna say, like, this thing has had a massive. It has had a lot of pluses, but it's had a huge negative impact on people's like ability to socialize. Which what we are is social creatures. So when that gets interrupted, you know, like people are growing up with less ability to regulate emotions, to maintain relationships. And more is being done on this, which is impacting people's ability to critically think. All of this stuff, I think, can be addressed, but there's a lot of practical issues in society. There's a lot of possibilities with our future. I think that's also one of the most fascinating things about humanity is so much of our future is a choice. You know, obviously there's plenty of stuff outside of our control, as is life. So much of it's outside of your control, but still so much that, I mean, human beings have the ability to think and create. Nothing else, as far as we know, can think forward and backward in time the way that we can. Which is a gift and a curse. You know what I'm saying? That's why we so damn anxious. But you know, like it's just I think that we have the ability to understand the issues that we face and address them or not. You know, so like it's very possible for us to go, we're going backwards in knowledge now. You know, like how is it that we have so many people who honestly believe that the earth is flat? You know, like it's not a must that intelligence go forward. That's not a law of physics. We can absolutely go backwards. Roe v. Wade was taken away. You know what I mean? Like these things can happen in law and in thinking. And so if we don't want to end up just a bunch of zombies hooked up to a tube somewhere, then we're going to have to do things like make sure our education system is strong and intact, to make sure that democracy is strong and intact. We're going to have to participate. And I think that while Americans do face a lot of real issues, I think that it has been good enough here that we haven't really had to be that involved as compared to a lot of other places. You know what I mean?
Like other countries or
yeah, other countries to where like they're just people aren't as comfortable. Like you can be broke in America and still be relatively comfortable if you
honestly, yeah.
in terms of distraction is really what I'm getting at. If you don't have a lot of ambition per se, and I don't mean like to be rich, I just mean like ambition, like you got to be working on stuff, you got to be doing stuff. You can struggle here and always be on a phone or always be watching some reality television show.
And then you're good. As long as you can fill your belly and have something to watch.
McDonald's
I think most people are like,
yeah, so
totally chill.
So again, I think it's just, you know, unfortunately, like it's things are bad, but things are going to have to get really bad before Americans as a whole are like, oh, like I have to try, I have to participate. They're not just going to do it for us. You know what I mean? Well, as you know, I was so sure that Kamala was going to win. I was
I know.
I was totally convinced because I just knew that Americans were smarter and better than this. But no. No. But I mean, I would say to me it was kind of like an unfortunate, of course we did this. You know what I'm saying? I think that in my lifetime, we've kind of slowly been marching in this direction. You know, like I was born in 92 when Bill Clinton came about, and that was when the Democratic Party really started to move to the right economically, and become less and less of an opposition force to corporate America as a whole. You know what I mean? And so, you know, as people's benefits have dried up, as people's opportunities to better paying jobs have dried up, promises have been broken, or half measures instead of people actually going after big wins, I think that a lot of people have just tapped out. And you can't really blame them for that, you know. I work in politics, so of course I'm going to constantly be paying attention to it. But from the perspective of an everyday person, you know, if for the last couple of decades, these people have been saying we're going to make this stuff better and then it doesn't happen, it's easy to tap out. You got stuff to worry about. You got kids to raise. You got a family. Whatever it is that you got to do as a fully grown adult, you got a lot of responsibilities. I was disappointed, though. I was really disappointed that Americans did this because at the end of the day, we did this. You know, like this dude has been in our lives for 10 years. And it's like, are you serious?
For some of us, way longer.
Right. If you out there in the Northeast, right? He been out here since the 70s.
My whole life. Yeah.
Right. Like, and to see these people talking about this isn't what I voted for. Like, how can you say that? How can you say that? Like, it's just,
I don't get it. it. This is exactly what was on the poster.
And they didn't hide any of it.
We tried to tell them and they were like, oh, you're just being like when people were saying online, read Project 2025, this is wild. And then even he was like, oh, I have nothing to do with that. I don't like anything in that. And we were like, they're going to do this. They've been trying to do this. It's rebranded since the 80s. It's the same playbook, but they're like basically by the time we even heard about actual Project 2025 as a booklet that you could like get, some of this stuff had already been done, like Roe v. Wade. You know what I mean? And so it's wild that people are now saying, oh, I didn't vote for this. But what I think they're saying is that like, I really didn't think it would affect me because the truth is they did spend a lot more time talking about trans folks, talking about immigrants, talking about that. And not, you know, he didn't say we're going to cut everyone's Medicaid. Like they didn't announce it in that way.
Oh yeah, you're 100% right. A lot of these people thought they was going to get them, but not me. It's cool if these people's lives get upended, but I was supposed to be, you know, untouched when it comes to that. I mean, like this dude tried to overthrow the government on national television.
You think he's gonna be honest?
And these people said, I mean, like, and that's again, that's there's a lot. We got a lot to work with in this country, particularly the people who have kind of tapped out or kind of are on the outskirts, caught up in the propaganda. But it's really disappointing to know that there's so many people in this country who love this. They love this peppermint. Like that's they love it. Like that's why they're a part of it. That's why they've been a part of it. It's because it makes them feel good. It's and it's pathetic and disheartening as it is. It's the truth. It is the truth. The Civil War wages on. They lost and they continue to lose, but it wages on. And then and they also, in regards to that too, I mean, they just cut $400 million in grants to Columbia University because students were protesting and for Palestinian rights. Part of Donald Trump's agenda when he was running for office was something like deport pro-Hamas protesters. So you're going to deport American citizens for being in favor of Palestine. I mean, this is just a huge mess. Unfortunately, the United States, ever since Israel's founding, has been just firmly behind Israel, like blindly behind it. Doesn't matter who's in office, Democrat or Republican, Israel's going to get what it wants. There's a bit more guardrails with Democrats than Republicans, but this is just, I mean, like Donald Trump tweeting out videos of him and Netanyahu on his beachfront properties in Gaza. Oh, we're just gonna take Gaza and turn it into beachfront property. This dude's out of his mind. This dude's crazy, and it's really unfortunate that these people's lives are just being casually talked about like this. And again, for a man who's supposed to be anti-war, now he's talking about taking Gaza, taking the Panama Canal, making Canada the 51st state. I mean, like the list goes on and on. Like this dude, and we're not even 2 months in yet. Strategize to really build in communities and start outwards and build outwards rather. And then also, I think it's important, being involved in your community goes deeper than just the political process. It means being a better neighbor. It means volunteering for things in your community, like helping to fundraise for good causes in your community, being a part of people's lives and community. That adds to the health of an environment to where people can feel more of a responsibility for others, for their neighbors, for their friends and family, that they end up building these relationships. And unfortunately, we live in a time, one, our city planning is really bad. So like our cities aren't really built for us to come together, but also technology has separated us greatly. But I think that a strong way for us to improve the whole country at large is to actually build community with one another. And that could just be going and playing some basketball with people at the rec center on Sundays. Like, just get involved. And so much can come from that. Considered to be masculine and feminine are just different forms of expressing of energies. Because what male and female in terms of gender and style is always changing. Shit, look at the kings, like the kings from
they was bad bitches. They was the bad bitches of the 1700s. They had the red bottoms on, the wigs, the pool, the makeup. They were ready for the ball. They was ready. You feel me? So stuff like that is always changing. I mean, you could look at a picture of like a woman from Victorian England and what the beauty standards at one point, when is it leukemia that's the consumption that they call the consumption? Is that, let's find out? Yeah, but that was like the disease.
Yeah, I think it's
consumption.
The consumption. Yeah, I want to say I think it's leukemia, but it might be something else. But yeah, like people get in and it like consumes your lungs and it like makes your face drip in. And at one point that was considered to be beautiful. How much people weigh, like body types are always changing. So this type of stuff is always in flux anyway. I mean, like for instance, like BBLs are starting to go up. Tuberculosis, the consumption. At one point that was considered a good look. Like in the 90s, like for instance, like for women's bodies, like kind of like the skinny natural body was in style, and now BBLs are slowly starting to go out of style compared to how they were.
Oh no.
So well, I mean, just like that's always in flux. You know what I'm saying? So there's no, Western Puritan culture is very rigid, but it when people talk about our rose-colored view of the past, almost none of it existed. You know, like when we talk about like the good old days when man ran the household and women didn't work, and that's just never been true. You know what I'm saying? Like unless you were well off, women have always worked. You know what I'm saying? Like you might not have been women have always worked. You know, again, you got all these people talking about like women have always worked, children used to work. So yeah, no, I think a lot of people they just don't get that sex and gender are different. But also it's just people are afraid of what they don't understand. But so much of it too just comes from the patriarchy and men men being terrified of being feminine or considered feminine. That's
Well, the other thing is, I was going to say, is yes, we want to, and even people who like feel like that might not be their cup of tea, advocating now publicly, because I know it's going to be coming it's already started, advocating publicly for the at least decriminalization, if not legalization of sex work in all forms, and what people are calling pornography in all forms is of everyone's best interest, because when they start legislating that, which they already have. I traveled to 2 cities, states, whatever, in the past like 2 months, and I couldn't believe it. Like Pornhub and other websites were just like blocked and banned.
yeah.
And I was like, oh. And so like this is, I feel like on one corner is like trans rights and access to like, gender affirming care, access to things like these medications and surgeries. On one end is abortion and access to contraception. And when it comes to bodily autonomy, the other end is access to sex products and sex work and, being able to be in the sex trade, whether as a consumer or a provider or professional. And when they limit those things, where that all meets is being able to make decisions about your own body, the way you want to do it, how you want to do it, whatever it is. Suddenly you don't have access to do those things because all these different groups have been outlawed,
And do you really want people to not be able to get off when they've had a stressful day? Is that really what you want?
After all this, that's all we want to go home and do.
Right, exactly. You had a long, stressful day. You can barely pay your bills. You're behind on your credit card payments.
Or you're rocked off.
That if you take that away from people, I mean, but on a serious note, though, that is something to think about for people who are somewhat in control of society. It's like, I mean, if you're not going to let people climb the social ladder, you might want to let them bust in there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because if we don't, I mean, that is one of those things that will keep people happy. Is that you give them their porn and their Kardashians and their McDonald's, you could probably take all the rest of the money out of their pocket. But once you start taking that stuff away, we are coming for you.
And I think it's, I think it's just, it's some of the furthest elements of the right wing in this country have taken over the Republican Party, because that's just that type of stuff is just silly. Anything that you do politically takes capital. Like people got to work on bills. People have to show up to vote for them. People have to give a damn for them to be in the spotlight at all. And it's like, and all the things that you could do, you're going to ban people from being able to look at porn. It's goofy. And it's really, it serves no real purpose because people just going to find another way to get it. You know what I'm saying? The prostitution real prostitution will just go up. If not a ton, it'll just go up a little more, because sometimes what keeps you from actually doing the real thing is if you handle it yourself. Then you're just like, well, I don't really got to go out here and do it.
Yeah. So. And what gets on your what is the pet peeve? Like, what gets on your damn nerves that you can encounter every day?
Every day?
Mm-hmm.
When people can't admit that they're wrong about something. I think that causes so many issues in the world, but particularly in friendships that could have lasted, stuff like that. People just can't be like, you know what? Yeah, I messed up there. That can go a long way if you can do that.